The controversy continues in Israel. Yossi Mekelberg joins us for analysis. He's Associate Fellow at Chatham House. Yossi, thanks for being with us, as always. The President Herzog saying that this should be scrapped. Do you think that his words will be heard?
Good evening. Well, they will be heard because of the protesters. Had it been an isolated statement by the President, probably not. But we see 10, 11 weeks straight of protest, which gather momentum all over the country, even in settlements. Some settlements, there are protests against this judicial, what they call reform, but it's a judicial coup trying to change the very basic fundamental pillars of Israel democracy. So I think, yes, at one point or another, they will have to go and talk to the opposition, and probably will make some compromises. And some of the leaders of this judicial coup already said today, yes, we would like to talk. 2 weeks ago, they refused to talk to anyone. Now they understand they need to.
Yossi, why has this actually happened? Because there's a school of thought that says this is about Netanyahu trying to avoid going to court by changing the system, which seems like a remarkable reach. However, lots of people are saying it. The other side of it, of course, is that there's a kind of pressure, because it's the most far-right government Israel has ever had, a kind of far-right pressure leaning on it. What do you make of it?
It's a combination of things. No doubt, the overall issue is Netanyahu and his corruption trial and his attempts to escape the conclusion of this trial and the consequences of conviction. So otherwise, had Netanyahu disappeared today from Israeli politics, there is an alternative coalition almost overnight. So he needs this coalition in order to try and derail his trial. But it's not only him, it's also other. For instance, Aryeh Deri, the Supreme Court ordered government and Netanyahu to dismiss him because of his own conviction. So there is issue of corruption, which they try to overrule their own laws, change the laws. Then there is, of course, the issue of the far right. They see the Supreme Court for decades as their main enemy, whether it's imposing religious laws or to continue the annexation and imposition and entrenchment of the occupation and violating the human rights of Palestinians, even worse than what's the situation now. And again, without Netanyahu trying to escape justice, this would have never happened.
And into this tangled web you just described flies the US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin today, who can't get beyond the airport because of the protesters, just as Netanyahu can't get to the airport. He had to be helicopter flown to his actual flight. It is a remarkable state of affairs, isn't it?
You see, many commentators, including myself, actually leveled accusation against Israel is they are too apathetic in face of the deterioration situation of their democracy and the situation in the West Bank, in Gaza. I think the bear was poked. And with this, what they call today the day of resistance against dictatorship, yes, they're out there in the street because they see the immediate consequences to the economy. They see the immediate consequences to their liberties, to their rights. They see confrontation with the world, confrontation with the Palestinians, and they're out there in the streets. And I think it was a good demonstration for the United States when such a senior official is there that they need to talk to the Israeli government and make their opinion very clear about this judicial coup.
Austin arriving on a day when there's another shooting in Tel Aviv. We're not sure whether that's linked or not, but it's another indication of a certain violence in society, I think, which is something which should never be ignored. But one issue, of course, that I've got to ask you about is who will be the chief losers if this reform goes ahead? Because I've heard some people saying, we've had them on our program saying that this will ruin justice, the notion of justice in Israel. Would it be fair to say that it would be the Palestinians who would be the biggest losers?
I think everyone will be a loser as a result of it. It's not the Palestinians. They live under occupation for more than 55 years, and there is no peace agreement, just and fair peace agreement in the offing. But at the same time, This will make the situation even worse, might lead to expansion of settlements. What we see with the militias of settlers, what happened in Hawara might happen more often, and who knows, maybe an annexation of large parts of the West Bank. But Israel is inside the Green Line. This is basically will be the end of democracy as we know it. It's the end of the Zionist dream of Jewish and democratic. It will be more Jewish, but in a very specific Jewish way, moving into a theocracy while losing the democratic character of the country.
Yossi Mekelberg, as ever, thank you very much for being with us. We always appreciate your time and your analysis of all matters related to the Middle East. Yossi Mekelberg of Chatham House. Thank you very much indeed. We, of course, are watching for all developments on the situation in Israel. We understand Benjamin Netanyahu on that visit to Rome. Of course, at some point he's going to go back, and the protests in Tel Aviv certainly are continuing as we speak.